Thug Rose, like I said, short notice against Tracy Cortez. So this went from being a prove it, let's see where you belong in the flyweight division against the upcoming Macy Barber, who's proven to be a real contender. Now you got another contender, just kind of in a different sense. Tracy Cortez, right? She's flashy. She could wrestle. She's got good hands. And we don't see her fight too often. But when she does fight, it seems to be a big deal. It seems like the company wants to move her. The machine wants to move her. This is a win-win for Tracy Cortez. Win or lose, right? You get a massive opportunity. My question here is, you can't look at this in a vacuum. You can't look at this and say, oh, this is just purely a matchup, right? Instead, the way that you probably should look at it is say, Tracy Cortez, with all of her skills, youth, and vigor, is taking this fight on short notice. If I'm being very approximate, this is like 18 days notice, AJ. This is less than 3 weeks notice, and you're fighting at elevation. She has infamously said, I acclimated to the Denver acclimation, the altitude. I've acclimated in 2 days. AJ, fair or foul? Give me your take on the fight.
Foul, absolutely foul. I'm from around the same elevation as what Denver is, mile high in Santa Fe, New Mexico, right up there in the mountains. And the elevation is key, man. It'll drag you. You go play down, whatever sport it is, you go down to sea level. You're a lot faster. You can breathe better. Those guys come up to the hood. Yes, it is an absolute you have to get acclimated to it, man. And it takes about a week. A lot of people, week and a half out there. There's a lot of fighters that go down when they need to acclimate to those kind of areas. They'll get down there 2-3 weeks in advance, just so that way they're already acclimated and still have a week to recover and to train and get used to it. 2 days sounds like a lot of media, a lot of, what do we say, Derick? A lot of the narrative.
Narrative, yes. It is a fantastic story, right? But I think it's going to be a sloppy fight either way that it goes, man. The big question that I have for you is, we've seen Rose Namajunas, and we know she's skilled. We know footwork is impeccable, former champion, but you cannot rest on your laurels, and you can't live off of your past glories, right? A lot of people are saying, and I don't want to say that this is me saying it, because I'm not. I'm just relaying the public's opinion. Shout out to the Twitter sphere, right? The people have spoken. And the people are saying that Rose Namajunas no longer has the hunger that it takes to become a world champion at 125 pounds. You've already done it. You've climbed the hill twice, 2-time champion. Do you still have that same drive and that same hunger? The question that I'm pointing to you here, AJ, is that, do you believe in that, or do you think that she's just at a new weight class with bigger, stronger opposition, and maybe the skill set that she had at 115 won't translate to the same effect at 125? What is the ceiling for Rose Namajunas here, and what does this matchup look like with the physicality of Tracy Cortez?
That's a good question, Derick, because that thought never entered my mind, right? Is Rose Namajunas falling off? Is this her time? Is she not going to be able to deal the same kind of damage as she was doing at 115 now at the higher weight class? I didn't think that was the case, but I can see where people have that thought, especially with and I forget if the Amanda Ribas fight was at 125, but just with the performance alone, right? With the way she has different performances versus like a Wei Li Zhang or a Carla Esparza, even though she lost the fight, JJ, Jessica Andrade, like there's a bunch of fights where we've seen Rose have this spark to her, have this grit, have this determination. If you look at the last fight with Amanda Ribas, she was kind of just staying calm, staying cool, just throwing ones and twos, and not really much else. Like I can see the argument of why people are saying that, but I don't think that's the case. I think this has a lot much more to do with the fact that she's fighting bigger girls that hit harder, that have more weight against her, and have cut so much more weight that she's having to make up for that differential. It just seems like a lot more. So where's the ceiling? It's Derick, I love to see, another champ in Thug Rose. Something tells me, man, I don't know if we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a top 5, maybe performance, get up in there, and then kind of stagger out. Because if you look at it, there's not a lot of people, especially the UFC-wise, that are pushing Thug Rose again. I mean, this could be the fight that's going to do it, but against a contestant like Tracy Cortez, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of fair points, right? If she cements a championship at 125 pounds, you could say walk off into the sunset. You have a Hall of Fame career, but you got to get past Tracy Cortez first in order to do that. And that's where the question comes in for me of, you saw the difference against Rose versus Manon Fiorot, right? Fiorot won the fight. Some would say it was a close fight where Rose could have won the fight. She was just a little behind on the cards, of course. But Tracy Cortez, she's big, man. She's strong, and she has good power, and she has good hands, right? But the thing that translates a little bit better for Rose Namajunas is going to be the speed, the footwork, the movement. Not so much the durability, but more than anything else, I would say it's just the craftiness of being a veteran in the game. I think Tracy Cortez, though, man, depending on what she could put on here at elevation, is wrestling, which I thought was a big X factor in all of the best ways in this matchup. Can that be effective here at elevation on short notice? Because, again, this isn't a vacuum fight. This is a very circumstantial fight.
I don't think the wrestling will be that effective unless Cortez is able to get to it early and get to it often and just continuously keep Rose on her back. I don't think it's going to be effective because of how elusive Rose Namajunas is of a fighter and how good her footwork is. I don't think Tracy Cortez is going to be able to, especially in the later rounds, once this gets tired, be able to grab Rose Namajunas and get her to the ground. My big thing, Tracy Cortez says that Rose Namajunas has never fought an opponent like Tracy Cortez. And there's arguments for that sake, especially in this weight class, right? She's never fought her. But I mean, Weili Zhang, there's some fighters right there. I think it's the other way around, that Tracy Cortez is now in the situation presented to herself with all the opportunity in the world, great opportunity, but having on a short notice with the wrestling style going for a power style fight, I just don't see that short notice being such a pro in this one.
Yeah, I think Tracy Cortez needs to get a little bit more on her chops before she could make that argument of, you ain't never saw nobody like me. You know, her last fight against Jasmine Jasvidicius, she looked awesome there, but Rose is an evasive fighter who picks her shots and kind of calculates footwork a lot better than Jasvidicius, who is much more of a zombie, walk you down and just take the big shots. So, in essence, I think that Rose Namajunas, similar to the Amanda Ribas fights, can kind of just skate around, man. And I think that she could win this fight on points, box her up, avoid the takedowns, and just kind of do what you do at elevation, man. You know what I mean? However, AJ, there's money to be made in this matchup here, and we need to actually jump into the numbers. So let's not waste any more time on that. If you take a look at what the current odds are right now, they're not, I mean, they're similar, but they're not quite what you see here. These are opening odds. Minus 200 for Namajunas, plus 165 for Cortez. Minus 235 now for Thug Rose, plus 190 for Cortez. So definitely leaning in favor of Rose. Here's the interesting part. Minus 105 for the decision. Well, not a ton of value right there. I like it. Don't get me wrong, right? But I think that there's much more value to be made throwing this fight into a parlay than just betting the house on one or the other right here. Now, when it comes down to other paths to victory, be real with me, man, because there's some people who are calling knockouts on either individual side right here. Can you see a finish coming out of this fight? Again, take elevation into account, take fatigue into account come rounds 3, 4, and 5.
I do, Derek, and I'm actually looking at that submission plus 800. The later this fight goes, if Tracy Cortez continues to try to get this fight to the ground, I can see Thug Rose pulling something, right, switching around, getting a submission right here. I can see that happening. What about you? Do you see a TKO for either fighter happening?
It's tough, man. The only one that I could see is one fighter's purely exhausted and you get him to the ground and pound type situation. I can't see a flush TKO happening from either fighters. I'm not saying that they don't have power. We've seen both of these fighters legit have power. I just don't know if it's going to be that kind of brawl em up matchup. Also, Tracy Cortez, man, I'm not familiar with what Tracy Cortez looks like over the course of 5 rounds. You know, so I'm not trying to, because I know how this sounds, right? This sounds like, oh, they're all on Thug Rose, man. They're giving Tracy Cortez no shot. I don't even feel that. I just think that if this is a short notice opportunity, you kind of see a more prepared fighter in Thug Rose right here. But again, do I see a TKO? I can see an exhaustion TKO, but let me talk to you about the submission really quickly. Neither of these fighters have had a submission victory legitimately on both ends for like 7 years, like respectively, right? So I can kind of see where you're playing there. I think Cortez, though, I think she might be able to mitigate some of the submission stuff with her wrestling, and I think that Thug Rose could use her jiu-jitsu to actually get the fight back up to the feet. So I don't see too much engagement right there, and that's why I do think that this fight ends up kind of being more of a, I'm going to skate around, and Cortez is going to land the big shots, look for the clinch. Rose is going to look for the pop, 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 and just do that for 25 straight minutes right there. So that's my assessment on the fight. Are you seeing it any different than that?
No, I agree with you. That is way more likely the outcome. All I'm thinking for that plus 800 submission. Yeah. Somebody gets tired. We're going right there. Lazy shot. Next thing you know, Rose has a neck. We've seen it happen to a bunch of fighters, and especially when you get exhausted, I could see that submission happening. But more than likely, I like, especially the one you're parlaying this with, man, the over in this fight. Put that on some money because that's cash all day long.
Bro, 4.5 rounds is like the big over if you're looking for that one. Minus 280 for over 4.5 rounds right there, which I thought wasn't nearly as crazy as it should be. If minus 105 is the prop for Rose fight by decision and minus 280 is over 4.5 rounds, there's something that's not adding up there. That's why I opted for the 3.5 rounds instead to bridge that gap, you know, in terms of providing the value and mitigating some of the risk. So I like Rose Namajunas here. We both like Rose Namajunas. This is a consensus pick right here. I honestly think Tracy Cortez could make this so competitive if this was a full training camp under different circumstances, but we're rolling with the former champ, Thug Rose, to get another one done at 125.